And good morning to you. Welcome inside the bottom line. Lanny Ford along with you here this morning. Flying solo, but I got a little conversation I had with my man Juju. I'll play that for you in just a momento. But glad to have you along here this morning. Cold, rainy. I got about 45 degrees outside. It's not going to change much during the day. It doesn't look like. We'll have to kind of wait and see. But going to be a little bit on the cool side for today. Not a whole lot going on. A few things. Of course, the tournament action is a little bit on the slow side right now as we're waiting to get the next round started. I guess the biggest thing is going to be what's going to go on with this Shohei Ohtani thing. And Juju and I will talk about that in just a minute. Hope you're off to a good start this morning. Good day. We'll have to see how things play out. But let me see if I've got the right file here. That'll be the key thing for me to do. I don't remember all my buttons, so let me try this. And we're back here on the bottom line. And Ford along with here on a rainy, cool Wednesday morning. As we do each and every week, we like to make sure we talk to our good friend Juju Phillips. We missed him on Monday night, and thought we'd do a little makeup here on Wednesday morning and get him in for a little chat. How are you, sir?
Lanny, doing fine. I hate I missed it on Monday. I was stuck in traffic in Charlotte.
There's no future in that, just in case you're wondering.
No, you're right.
I did that for many years, and I don't care to reinvent that at all. So I'm glad you got back. Everything's safe, and we kind of get back to where things are. How about some surprises from the tournament over the weekend? Anything other than 4 ACC teams are still in it?
Probably that in the Big East. It's like a throwback to the 1980s when the ACC and the Big East dominated college basketball. I think we're seeing 2 or 3 teams from the Big East and 4 teams from the ACC. To me, that's been one of the biggest surprises, kind of like a throwback. And I think the not so surprising, Len, is the teams that are doing quite well are the teams that are seasoned, that have players that are veteran players that you've seen they've been together for a few years, be it mid-major or even some of the top teams in the country. There are teams that are older, and I think that's a good thing and maybe a good sign for college basketball.
Talking about it, it's when you look at what the ACC has accomplished this year, and when I look at the regular season, other than they beat each other up a lot, I just didn't think this was a strong ACC year. And I also talked about it yesterday when you talk about expanding the tournament. Here you are in the Sweet 16, and I think the lowest-ranked team would be NC State. Has been a surprise. They were 11, if I'm not mistaken, coming into the tournament. Everybody else, Clemson was a 6, and I think everybody else is above that. So they got it right who they brought in.
They did, and there was so much criticism. There were a couple of teams probably had NC State not won the tournament, Pitt would have got in. That would have been another team, obviously. But I think the fact that when you look at the rankings, and it's a little bit more scientific now than it's ever been before. They have so many different formulas that they use. I think for the most part, you're going to get some teams that are on the bubble that maybe get left out. And the talk of expanding the tournament is, for the most part, I think the best teams are in, and it makes for an exciting tournament.
And you wonder if they could do it in basketball. Why couldn't they get it figured out in the Final Four for college football? For some reason, they can't. They let other things get in the way. Speaking of NCAA basketball, one of the things I think that's a little bit surprising, or it is to me, and I'm not a follower of the Kentucky program, but John Calipari, he was one of the ones that really embraced the one and done, and he did okay to begin with, but he's going into his 16th season next year. They've said he would be back. I'm a little bit surprised because he may be putting, I think they said he's put 19 players in the NBA. That doesn't do anything for Kentucky, as Kentucky saying they're a college basketball power.
No, and he's probably going to have to change a little bit about his philosophy and how he builds basketball teams. I think, but you have a lot of kids that see the fact, the numbers that you just pulled up, is that he sends a lot of guys to the NBA, so they want to do the one and done. And I'm not so sure now. We're seeing a little bit less of the one and dones because some kids can stay in school for another year or two, pick up some NIL money and develop, and that makes it a lot better. Kentucky was one of the youngest teams in all of college basketball. They were, again, one of the most talented teams. But when you're playing against 23, 22, 24-year-olds, and you got a bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds, the talent wins out. But when you get down to the nitty-gritty, they're more seasoned, they're going to win. And I think in Kentucky's case, and local fans will know about Robert Dillingham. Everybody's talking about him maybe being a lottery pick from Catawba County. He was a kind of a player that was very exciting to watch and very talented, obviously, but he doesn't have the seasoning yet to play. I mean, you're going to see some of these guys from Kentucky down the road, 3 or 4 years, they're going to probably be stars in the NBA. And the guys that they're playing against in college basketball, maybe they are at their ceiling right now, and they're not going to be stars in the NBA. But that's what you have right now. And I think for Kentucky fans, either they're going to have to say, we're happy with the one and dones, or we want to go back to being a college basketball power, and that may be something that they need to do, go into the transfer portal and try to get older players to keep them. So, I mean, it's going to be a change of philosophy. We'll have to wait and see whether or not the Calipari does that or not.
You look at his history. He has one national title back in 2012. The last Final Four appearance was in 2015. And in 2021, he finished 9-16, the worst record that the program had had in 100 years, and then suffered early exits in 22 and 23 inside of it. Here's the thing, and even this article that I was reading talks about the emergence of Reed Sheppard and Rob Dillingham, projected top 10 picks in the NBA draft. Here's the thing, Juju. It's always been shown that the teams that have more mature, experienced guys do better in the tournament because it takes some cohesiveness for these guys to play together. Because when you do one and dones, it honestly, it's like the NBA. It's just one-on-one play.
Yeah, that's what it is. Especially the important parts of the game, the final few minutes of the game, it turns into a one-on-one contest. You're absolutely right. When you look at teams, I think the teams that build the roster the best are, Lanny, like anything else, are the ones that are balanced. They have a little bit of youth and a little bit of seasoning, and guys in the middle that know what it takes. They have a seasoned roster. They have some seniors that expect to play a lot. They know their role. I mean, and that takes time to develop. You can't do it in 15 or 20 games and expect to be, a top-notch college basketball team. It's like any other sport. It just takes time to mesh. And I don't think, in life today, I guess, in everybody's life, we don't give enough time and patience to develop that kind of cohesiveness and teamwork and all that stuff that we grew up watching and seeing and reading about. We just don't see it as much as we used to.
Well, and the other thing I think that may have been a little bit of a holdout, and I don't think they'd have any problem with this as far as coming up with it, but had they decided to let him go, they would have owed him $33 million.
Yeah.
I would think somewhere in the contract, if you're going to pay folks like that, at some point you're going to have to start putting production or progress or depth in the tournament. You have to put something in there that you can fire with cause and you don't have to owe. They're going to have to start putting something like that because you've got some of these older coaches that will not modify the way they do. Now, he's come out and said, I'm going to continue to recruit freshmen. He's got 3 of the top 25 recruits. He's recruiting hard, and then mix it with some older players. But he's not doing that. He's really not doing that.
Well, he's going to lose a few guys this year. He's going to lose Sheppard. He's going to lose Rob Dillingham, so he's going to have to fill in. He had it, as it were. So, I mean, we'll see. It's good. I'm sure he's talked with his athletic director, and I'm sure they've had some self-scouting and self-study about what they can do to get beyond the first and second round of the NCAA tournament, because Kentucky is kind of a blue blood program. Expect them to be in the Sweet 16 at least every other year. They haven't been there as long as you said, Lanny, for a long time. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch during this offseason on how Kentucky builds their roster for next year and beyond.
Let's change gears here just a little bit when you talk about the way things have evolved and focal points into a team or a league. I haven't talked to you since the story broke about Ohtani and his interpreter with the $4.5 million payoff of an illegal bookie. Somehow, and here's, I guess, the part that I'm not sure how it's going to play out. I really hope that Ohtani really had nothing to do with it. This was just unfortunate on his part because he really didn't know and because of the language barrier. But I got a feeling they're going to dig deep, and if they come up with anything, it's going to be really hard not to put the hammer down on him if he was involved to some extent with some of the gambling.
Lanny, they're in a Major League Baseball's in a pickle. They're in a tough spot. Ohtani is the face of baseball,
right?
Not only in this country but in the world. So they're going to tread lightly. If I have understanding that, and maybe because he is so rich, that $4.5 million that got gone is maybe like a couple $100. So maybe he did not. I have a hard time believing that he didn't know exactly where all that money was going, and that it's not like his interpreter pulled off $4.5 million one day and said, "Okay, I'm gonna write a check and pay off a couple of gambling debts." This happened to be some kind of, signals. There's something wrong here. Something's not right.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, if it happened, a hint of, gambling, bookies, and he had anything to do with it, he's either lying, Lanny, extremely naive.
I really am, because here's the thing.
Right.
You talk guy for baseball?
Yeah, and I think, honest, Lanny, down the road might be only the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
When it comes to gambling and scouting, you're going to start. I think you'll see it probably with, college football and college basketball down the road. You're going to find some players maybe, taking money or having to pay gambling debts down the road.
Did you see, I don't know if you saw this or heard about this, there was and I'm trying to think the team, NBA, I want to say maybe the Bulls, just a role player, but he was doing some prop bets on himself as far as his performance on an over-under. And he was doing $20,000 at a time, and they called it because two bets came in that where they took the under. Well, if you're a player and you can make the under work, because all you have to do, he came out and was having flu-like symptoms, and so he didn't go back into the game, so it kept his numbers down. The part that I don't understand is I don't know how you're going to stop it.
No, it's the cat's out of the bag, or however you want to put it, genie out of the bottle. I don't know how you are going to – they're just going to have to legislate it a little bit, maybe have some serious consequences or punishments for people that do this. If that means banning them forever or for a long period of time when they're professionals like that for a period of time, that's the only way I can think. You can't say we can't do it anymore. They're going to have some serious punishments if they do get caught.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't really know how you can monitor, I guess, is the best word for it. And then go back to the Ohtani thing. The bad part about that one, which makes it look even worse, he wasn't doing it through a legal book. He was doing it through an illegal bookmaker, which makes it look like you did have something to hide. The guy for the Bulls was doing it through a legitimate licensed sports book, is how they called it. But, the Ohtani thing, I'm like you. I think we've just got the tip of the iceberg, and I'm afraid it's going to get a whole lot worse before it gets better. Yeah.
And right before the start of the season like this, and he had just changed teams to the Dodgers and got all this money, it's tough on baseball. They got a serious problem on it.
What else you got on your plate for today, sir?
Let me mention a couple of things, Lanny. Local. Lenore Ryan looking for a men's basketball coach. They're doing interviews this week, and they had some guys on campus we know quite well. We've had them on the show. Hickory High basketball coach in Willis. Interviewed, I believe, either Monday or yesterday. So he is one of the finalists. They hope to probably name a coach, I'm guessing, by the weekend or early next week. But Brian Lentz, who is another former LR alum, assistant coach at Tennessee, he is also in on the mix. He's one of the candidates. So that's interesting to find out. LR is not they've only had like 3 or 4 coaches in the last 40 years. So this is a big hire for them because they would like to get back to their winning ways. They haven't been that way in a number of years. And the other interesting part is Jamian Little, the Hickory High product wide receiver for Hickory High, is a rising senior this year. He'll be a rising senior. He's going to announce where he's going to go to college at later today. It's come down to either NC State, Duke, or Virginia Tech. He's a wide receiver. I think he's the Red Tornadoes' all-time leading receiver. I think he's leaning towards NC State, but Duke is in the picture as well. So that's going to be interesting to find out what happens there. And then maybe we'll have a chance to talk Monday, Lanny, about this new kickoff rule in the NFL, which is getting a lot of play. And I'm looking at it from a local angle. For a guy like Kyle Duggar for Lenore Ryan, who's excellent in punt and kickoff returns when he was in college, will he go back to maybe returning kicks now in the NFL? Because the way it looks, it's going to be they're going to be not necessarily looking for guys that are jitterbugs or speedsters, break a wedge in a hurry. And Kyle Duggar, I think, would be perfect for that. The New England Patriots defensive back, who's an excellent kick returner. So, I mean, that may be adding more value to his contract if he can return kicks for the Patriots. But that's something to watch, something for us to talk about in the future, this new NFL kickoff rule.
Yeah, and I compare the new kickoff rule to almost, and the reason that Kyle Duggar fits, I compare it almost to like an intercepted pass, the way things are going to play out from the speed, where everybody's at, that kind of thing. So you don't have that high risk injury possibility with the return men like you did before. So there may be some two-way folks that can get out there. Go back to Daniel. I know you know Daniel's not just a high school coach. He spent a lot of time in the college level as well.
Yeah, he's been at VMI. He was a long-time assistant coach at the Citadel for a number of years before he took the job at Hickory High. He's been around the college coach about 10 or 15 years, I guess. Was also an assistant coach at Western Carolina. He's been at Hickory High the last 3 years, and he's an All-American. He's one of, I think, maybe 2 or 3 in Lenore Ryan history, men's basketball, that have been All-Americans. So that would be a big hire for them to hire one of their own, and right down the road. He is again one of the final candidates. He's taken Hickory High Red Tornado basketball to big heights over the last few years. They were, among the 2 or 3 best teams in North Carolina in 3A basketball the last few years. And now he's going to take on the challenge of becoming a head coach in college for the very first time if he gets the job. Again, it looks like it's going to be 3 or 4 other people that are in line for that, but it's going to be interesting to see what Lenore Ryan finally decides, because you have a Willis, you have a Brian Lentz, whose dad was a longtime coach at Lenore Ryan, and probably some other guys as well. So I guess it's a job that has drawn a lot of interest, especially from Lenore Ryan alums. It's going to be interesting to find out what happens.
Needless to say, a coveted position, especially if it's an alum. Yeah. And recently, LR has not done that. Right.
They haven't hired alums for any of their coaching positions. I mean, our buddy Jack Huss is the last LR alum to be head football coach. That goes back to the 70s.
Right. Back when me and you were still playing.
Yeah. High school football.
Forever ago. All right, sir. Hope you have a great day. Stay dry if you can, and look forward to you jumping in here on Monday night.
All right, Lanny, I'll talk to you. Again, thanks again. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks, buddy. And that'll wrap it up for us here on The Bottom Line. We'll catch you again Saturday morning with the boys. Juju and I'll be back Monday night. Have a good one.